I was 8 years old when Anthony Gray first held my hand under the ancient oak tree and promised we'd be mates forever. I was 22 when he stood before the entire Northern Pack Council, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Janet Summers is not my fated mate. I reject any bond between us." The humiliation burned worse than wolfsbane. But here's what Anthony doesn't know. I've spent the last 3 years becoming someone he can't ignore, can't dismiss, and definitely can't reject twice. Because when I walk back into Moonfall Citadel tomorrow as the Academy's newest healer, I'm not the broken Omega girl he crushed. I'm the woman carrying moonblood so powerful that even an Alpha King will kneel. And this time, when he tries to push me away, I'll make him remember exactly why the Moon Goddess chose me for him in the first place. Ever been rejected by someone who promised forever? Drop a comment if you'd go back for revenge, or just move on. Hit subscribe because this gets wild. The iron gates of Moonfall Citadel looked exactly as I remembered them, massive, imposing, designed to make anyone approaching feel small and insignificant. 3 years ago, I would have been intimidated. 3 years ago, I was a different person. "Are you certain about this, child?" Elder Miriam's voice crackled through the communication crystal I'd tucked into my bag. "Walking back into the place where he rejected you, it will hurt." "I'm counting on it," I said quietly, watching dawn break over the Citadel's obsidian towers. "Pain means I'm still alive. Still fighting." The Elder's sigh was audible even through the crystal's static. "You're more like me than I expected when I found you half dead in the Whispering Forest."
Stubborn.
"Reckless. Brilliant. You forgot to be vengeful," I added.
No, dir.
"I didn't forget. I just know you well enough to understand revenge isn't what's actually driving you." Miriam paused. "You're not here to hurt Anthony Gray. You're here to prove you never needed his acceptance in the first place." She was right, though I wouldn't admit it aloud. The summons to serve as Moonfall Citadel's new Master Healer had arrived 2 months ago, signed by the Northern Pack Council with Anthony's official seal at the bottom. Whether he knew they'd hired me specifically or just approved the Council's recommendation without checking the name, I couldn't tell. Either way, I'd accepted immediately. I ended the call with Miriam and approached the gates. The guards, two massive gamma wolves who probably thought standing at attention all day counted as real work, straightened as I approached. "State your name and purpose," the larger one demanded. "Janet Summers, new Master Healer, reporting for duty." I handed him my council appointment papers, watching his expression shift from dismissive to confused as he read my credentials. "You're the new Master Healer? But He caught himself before finishing the sentence, but I knew what he was thinking. Too young. Too female. Too Omega. "I'm qualified," I said simply. Elder Council verified my credentials. "Unless you're planning to override their decision?" The guard's face flushed. Questioning council appointments was career suicide. He waved me through without another word, though I felt his gaze following me as I crossed the threshold into Moonfall Citadel proper. The main courtyard was already busy despite the early hour. Students in training gathered in clusters, their movements showing the casual arrogance of young wolves who'd never faced real hardship. I recognized the type. I used to train with the border village equivalent before Anthony left. Before everything changed. "Excuse me," a young voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned to find a girl who couldn't be more than 16, her red hair catching the morning sun. "Omega," I noted automatically by the subtle submission in her posture. "Are you the new healer?"
I'm Kia Venus.
"I was told to help you find your quarters and show you around." "Janet Summers," I introduced myself, liking her immediately. There was something direct about her gaze, intelligent despite the submissive posture. I'd appreciate the tour. Kira's chatter filled the walk to the healing wing, providing details about Citadel life that official briefings never covered. Which instructors to avoid. Which students caused the most trouble. Where to find decent food after the dining hall closed. And the Alpha King? I asked as casually as I could manage. Does he visit the healing wing often? Kira's expression shifted, becoming more guarded. Not really. He has his own private healers for the royal family. We mostly see beta students and below. She hesitated. Why do you ask? Professional curiosity. I assumed treating the Alpha King would be the master healer's responsibility if he ever needed care. I suppose, Kira said slowly. But Alpha Anthony doesn't get sick. He's like supernaturally healthy. Perfect alpha genetics, or whatever the instructors always say. Interesting. Either Anthony was hiding his shadow-rot infection remarkably well, or the royal propaganda machine was working overtime to maintain his image of invincibility. Nobody's that healthy, I observed. You don't know Alpha Anthony. Kira paused mid-sentence, her entire body going rigid. Oh, moon goddess. He's here. Why is he here? I followed her gaze across the courtyard and felt my heart stop. Anthony Gray stood near the central fountain, surrounded by his usual entourage of beta commanders and political advisors. 3 years had changed him. He was broader now, more confident in the way he carried himself. The boy I'd loved had become a man who commanded rooms just by entering them.
And he was looking directly at me.
For a moment, neither of us moved. The courtyard seemed to freeze, conversations dying as wolves noticed their Alpha King's attention focused on someone new. I saw the exact second Anthony recognized me, his eyes widening fractionally, his posture shifting from relaxed authority to tense awareness. Then his expression closed, becoming the neutral political mask I'd seen once before. The night he rejected me. Alpha King, I said formally, bowing my head the exact minimum amount protocol required. Not submission, acknowledgement. Master Healer Summers. His voice was carefully controlled, giving nothing away. I didn't realize the council had appointed you specifically. They sent their recommendation to your office 3 weeks ago. You signed the approval personally. I pulled the appointment letter from my bag, pointing to a seal. Unless your signature has been forged, a few of his entourage shifted uncomfortably. Challenging an Alpha King's memory was borderline insubordination, but I'd phrased it as concern about forgery rather than accusation. Anthony's jaw tightened. I sign many documents. Not all receive my full attention. Clearly. I tucked the letter away. If you'll excuse me, I need to review the Healing Wing inventory before my official duties begin tomorrow. I walked away without waiting for dismissal, aware that every wolf in the courtyard was watching. Kira hurried to catch up, her face pale. You challenged the Alpha King. In public. On your first day. I corrected a factual error, I said calmly, though my heart was racing. There's a difference. Not to most wolves. Kira glanced back nervously. Janet, do you have any idea how much trouble? He can't punish me for stating facts documented in official council correspondence. I stopped walking, meeting her worried gaze. Kira, I need you to understand something. I'm not here to make friends or play politics. I'm here to heal wolves and prove my competence. If that makes me unpopular with the Alpha King, I can live with it. What I didn't say, Anthony Gray already destroyed me once. He can't do worse than he's already done. Kira studied me for a long moment. You're either really brave or really stupid. I can't decide which. Can it be both? She laughed despite herself. Okay, Master Healer Summers. Let's get you settled before you pick any more fights with royalty. The healing wing was impressive, well-stocked, organized, clearly maintained by someone who understood herb preservation and medical supply chains. I spent the afternoon reviewing inventory, checking expiration dates, and reorganizing storage according to my preferred system. I was deep in concentration, cataloging rare herb varieties, when a voice interrupted. You have excellent taste in storage systems. I spun to find Thorn Blackwater leaning against the doorframe, his scarred face neutral but his eyes showing genuine curiosity. The beta commander of Anthony's personal guard, I recognized him from council records Miriam had made me study. Most healers organize alphabetically, he continued. You're using frequency of use combined with treatment category. More efficient. Most healers learned in academic settings, I replied carefully. I learned in the field, where efficiency meant the difference between saving lives and losing patients. Thorn nodded approvingly. Border village training? Thornwick. Before it was abandoned after the drought. I know Thornwick. His expression shifted slightly. That's where the Alpha King grew up. Before his formal training.
I'm aware.
Silence stretched between us, heavy with implications neither of us was willing to voice directly. The shadow-rot patients, I said finally, changing the subject. How many are currently receiving treatment? Thorn's surprise was obvious. How did you know about shadow-rot? That information is classified. Elder Miriam trained me. She remembers the last outbreak, 200 years ago. She's been tracking current cases and sent me her research. I pulled out Miriam's notes. According to her records, you've lost 17 alphas in the last year. The council is suppressing the numbers to prevent panic. 18, Thorn corrected quietly. We lost another one this morning. Delta Commander Reeves. He'd been fighting it for 3 months. And the Alpha King? When was he infected? Thorn's face went completely blank. I don't know what you're talking about. Commander Blackwater, I'm going to cure shadow rot. But I can only do that if I have access to all infected patients, including the ones the council is hiding for political reasons. I met his gaze directly. I saw Anthony in the courtyard this morning. His movements are too controlled, too careful. He's compensating for weaknesses he doesn't want anyone to notice. That's stage 2 shadow rot. The disease is advanced but not yet debilitating. If you're wrong, I'm not wrong. I can see it. Moonblood healers can always see it. I let just enough power leak into my voice that Thorn's wolf would recognize what I was. His eyes widened. You're Moonblood? But that's supposedly extinct. I know. I pulled my sleeve up, revealing the silver tracings on my skin that marked my heritage. Miriam awakened it 3 years ago when I was dying from complications. Turns out Moonblood is the only thing that can cure shadow rot because the disease is actually a curse, not natural illness. Thorn processed this information with impressive speed. If what you're saying is true, you're the most valuable healer in the Northern Territories. And the most dangerous to anyone who doesn't want shadow rot cured. I covered my markings again. Which is why I need allies, Commander. People who care more about saving lives than maintaining political status quo. You're asking me to betray the Alpha King's confidence. I'm asking you to save his life. There's a difference. Thorn studied me for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. Alpha Anthony was infected 4 months ago. He's been using suppressants to hide the symptoms, but they're becoming less effective. At current progression rate, he has maybe 6 weeks before the disease becomes too obvious to hide. 6 weeks, I repeated. That's barely enough time to synthesize a cure, let alone test it properly. Can you do it? I thought about Elder Miriam's research, about the Moonblood techniques she taught me, about the experimental treatments I'd been developing in secret for exactly this scenario. Yes, I said. But I need access to the Alpha King. Regular access. Not just emergency calls when he's too sick to hide it anymore. That's going to be difficult. He's been avoiding you since this morning. I noticed. I smiled without humor. Rejection guilt is a powerful motivator for avoidance behavior. Thorn's expression shifted to shock.
Wait.
You're the Omega girl. The one he rejected 3 years ago. I remember now. There were rumors about the Alpha Prince publicly refusing his mate bond, but I never heard the details. The details are simple. We grew up together. I thought we'd be mates. He thought an Omega wasn't worthy of an Alpha King. End of story. Except you're here now. Working in his citadel. Possibly the only person who can save his life. Thorn's respect was visible. That's either remarkable forgiveness or spectacular revenge. Neither. It's professional duty. I heal wolves. All wolves, even ones who broke my heart. I started organizing my medical supplies. But I won't lie and pretend it doesn't feel a little bit satisfying to be indispensable to someone who once called me worthless. He didn't. Thorne stopped himself. Didn't what? Didn't mean it? Didn't understand what he was doing? I laughed bitterly. Commander Blackwater, Anthony Gray looked me in the eye during the Thornwick blessing ceremony and told the entire village that the moon goddess had made a mistake bonding him to someone of my rank. Those were his exact words. Whatever his intentions were, that's what he chose to say. Thorne had no response to that. But we're getting distracted. I continued. The Alpha King's feelings about our past are irrelevant to treating his shadow rot. I need access. Can you arrange it? I'll try. But Anthony isn't going to make this easy. I didn't expect it to be easy. I expected it to be complicated, awkward, and professionally nightmarish. I smiled grimly. Fortunately, I've had 3 years to prepare for exactly that scenario. Thorne left to arrange my first official meeting with the Alpha King. I returned to my quarters, a surprisingly spacious suite in the healing wing, and found Kira waiting with dinner. I thought you might want food that isn't from the main dining hall on your first night, she explained, setting out plates. Politics are exhausting, and you've had more than your share today. You're remarkably thoughtful for someone I just met.
I'm remarkably nosy, Kira corrected.
And you're the most interesting thing that's happened at the Citadel in months. A Moonblood healer who publicly challenged the Alpha King? That's entertainment value for weeks. I had to laugh. Glad my professional humiliation amuses you. Oh, you weren't humiliated. Anthony was. Kira's grin was wicked. He stood there looking like someone had hit him with a brick while you calmly corrected his memory and walked away. I've never seen the Alpha King speechless before. He won't stay speechless. Tomorrow he'll probably have some political response designed to put me in my place. Maybe, Kira acknowledged. Or maybe he's too busy dealing with whatever's making him look so terrible lately. Have you noticed? He looks exhausted. Sick almost. Shadow rot, I said, trusting my instincts about Kira's discretion. Don't repeat that. It's classified. Her eyes widened. The Alpha King has shadow rot? But that's fatal if untreated. Yes. I picked at my dinner. Which is why I'm here, though he doesn't know that part yet. The council hired me specifically because Elder Miriam told them I could cure it. Can you? I think so. But I need cooperation from a patient who'd rather pretend he's not sick than accept help from someone he publicly rejected. I met Kira's gaze. You understand why this stays between us? Obviously. I'm Omega, not stupid.
She paused.
But Janet, if you can cure shadow rot, you're going to save a lot of lives. Not just the Alpha Kings. My aunt died from it last year. 3 of my friends lost parents to it. This disease is destroying families. The weight of expectation settled on my shoulders. Saving Anthony was personal in complicated ways I didn't want to examine. Saving everyone else, that was the responsibility I'd actually signed up for. I'll do my best, I promised. That's all I can offer. Your best is already more than anyone else has managed. Kira started clearing plates. Get some rest. Tomorrow you're going to need all your energy for whatever Anthony throws at you. She was right. Tomorrow will be complicated. I just didn't know how complicated yet. So would you go back to heal someone who publicly rejected you, or let karma handle it? Smirking face, drop your answer below and smash that subscribe button, because tomorrow's confrontation is everything. The summons came at dawn, a formal request from Commander Blackwater for my presence in the Alpha King's private quarters at precisely 8 o'clock. Not a request from Anthony himself. Not even acknowledgement that this was a medical consultation rather than a political meeting. Just Thorne's carefully neutral message suggesting I bring appropriate medical supplies. I arrived exactly on time, carrying my medical bag and enough moonblood suppressants to keep my power from flaring if Anthony's proximity triggered the rejected mate bond. The royal guards at his door looked uncomfortable letting an Omega into the Alpha King's private space, but Thorne's authorization overrode their hesitation. Anthony's quarters were exactly what I expected: luxurious, immaculately organized, designed to impress rather than comfort. He sat behind a massive desk covered in council documents, still maintaining the fiction that this was a political meeting rather than medical emergency. "Master Healer Summers," he said formally, not looking up from his papers. "Commander Blackwater indicated you have information about shadow rot treatment." "I have more than information. I have a potential cure." I set my medical bag on his desk, deliberately disrupting his careful arrangement of documents. "But before we discuss treatment, I need to examine you properly. That means honest answers about your symptoms and timeline." "I don't have shadow rot. Alpha King, I can literally see the disease markers on your skin. Stage 2 progression, approximately 4 months infected, using suppressants that are barely working anymore." I pulled out Miriam's diagnostic crystal. "Would you like me to prove it, or can we skip the denials and move to productive conversation?" Anthony finally looked up, his eyes showing the first real emotion I'd seen since my arrival: frustrated resignation mixed with something that might have been relief. "How long have you known?" he asked quietly. "Since I saw you in the courtyard yesterday. Moonblood healers can sense curse energy." I moved closer, professional mode overriding the screaming instinct to run from the man who destroyed me. "The question is why you've been hiding it instead of seeking treatment." "Because Alpha Kings don't get sick. We don't show weakness. We don't," he stopped himself, jaw clenching. "Don't accept help from people you've hurt?" I finished. "Because that's what this is really about, isn't it? You'd rather die than admit you need me specifically." The silence was deafening. "I don't want to have this conversation," Anthony said finally. "Good. Neither do I. But we're going to have it anyway, because your pride isn't worth your life." I pulled out examination tools. "Take off your shirt. I need to see the full extent of the curse markings." "Janet." "That's Master Healer Summers to you," I interrupted coldly. "We're not friends. We're not former childhood companions. We're certainly not fated mates, since you made it very clear that bond doesn't exist. I'm your healer, you're my patient, and this is a medical examination. Now take off your shirt before I call Commander Blackwater to help hold you down." For a moment, I thought Anthony might actually argue. Then he stood, removed his formal jacket, and unbuttoned his shirt with movements that were too careful, too controlled. The shadow rot markings were worse than I'd expected. Black veins spiderwebbed across his chest and shoulders, the curse spreading from his heart outward in patterns that would eventually reach his brain and kill him. Stage 2, yes, but progressing towards Stage 3 faster than my estimates had predicted. 6 weeks was optimistic, I said, trying to keep my voice clinical despite the shock. "At this progression rate, you have maybe 4 weeks before the disease becomes fatal." Anthony's face showed nothing, but his heartbeat, audible to my enhanced senses, spiked with fear. "Can you cure it?" he asked.
Yes.
"But the treatment is going to be complicated, painful, and require your complete cooperation." I pulled out sample vials from my bag. Moonblood essence combined with purified starlight and a dozen other ingredients Miriam and I have been testing. It counteracts the curse by essentially overriding the dark magic with divine power. "How many treatments?" "Minimum 8 sessions over 4 weeks. Possibly more depending on how your body responds." I met his gaze directly. "And they have to be done here, in private, because the process temporarily makes your wolf consciousness surface uncontrolled. You'll say things you don't mean, feel things you've suppressed, possibly shift without intention. It's not pleasant. And if I refuse treatment,
You die.
painfully, slowly, while your pack watches their invincible Alpha King waste away from a disease he was too proud to admit having." I packed my supplies. "Your choice, Anthony. Accept help from someone you rejected, or maintain your pride until it kills you." He flinched at my use of his first name, the familiarity we'd once shared now weaponized into reminder of what he'd thrown away. "When do we start?" he asked quietly.
Tonight.
"After the Citadel goes to sleep, and there's less chance of interruption." I headed for the door, then paused. "And Anthony? This stays between us, Commander Blackwater, and Elder Miriam. If anyone else finds out you're sick, especially if they find out an Omega healer is treating you, the political consequences will be severe." "I understand."
Do you?
"Because 3 years ago, you cared more about political appearances than about our mate bond. I need to know you won't make the same choice again if treating me becomes socially complicated." The hit landed exactly as I intended. Anthony's face went pale, his wolf surfacing enough that I could see the pain in his eyes. "I won't," he said. "I swear it. Whatever you need, whoever finds out, I won't let politics override your treatment." "Good. Because if you reject me professionally the way you did personally, I will walk away and let you die. I've survived one rejection from you. I won't give you the opportunity for a second." I left before he could respond, my hands shaking slightly as I walked down the hall. The first confrontation was over. I'd maintained professional distance, established treatment parameters, and made it clear I wasn't the broken girl he destroyed 3 years ago. But Moon Goddess, being near him, was hurt. The rejected mate bond flared every time we were in proximity, phantom pain of what should have been mixing with bitter reality of what was. For weeks of treatments. For weeks of close contact with the man I'd once loved and now had to heal. Either I'd cure him and prove my worth, or this proximity would destroy me all over again. The first treatment session happened at midnight in Anthony's quarters. I'd sent Kira to gather supplies and spread a cover story about working on General Shadow rot research. Thorne stood guard outside, ensuring privacy. Anthony sat on the edge of his bed, shirtless again, looking more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. "This is going to hurt," I warned, preparing the Moonblood serum. "The cure works by burning out the curse, which means you'll feel like you're on fire from the inside. Your wolf will fight it because the pain triggers defensive instincts. I need you to suppress those instincts and let the treatment work. I can handle pain. Not this kind. This is divine magic fighting dark curse inside your body. It's agony in ways normal wolves can't comprehend." I drew the serum into an injection syringe. Last chance to back out. Just do it. I injected the serum directly into his heart, the only way to ensure it reached the curse's origin point. Anthony's entire body went rigid, his eyes flooding silver as the moonblood began its work. Then he started screaming. I'd warned him it would hurt, but nothing prepared either of us for the reality. Anthony's wolf surged forward, trying to shift to escape the pain. I had to use my own power to hold him in human form, pinning him to the bed with supernatural strength while the cure burned through his system. "Janet," he gasped between screams, his consciousness fragmenting under the pain.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
"I didn't want to reject you. They made me," Viraya said. "Anthony, focus on my voice," I commanded, using the healer's authority to cut through his delirium. "The treatment is working. You have to let it finish." But he was too far gone into pain-induced confession, 3 years of suppressed guilt pouring out. "Loved you," he managed. "Always loved you. But they said an Omega Luna would make me weak. Destroy my authority. Viraya threatened to ruin both of us if I didn't reject the bond publicly."
I was 18. Scared.
"Stupid. Stop talking," I ordered, though my hands were shaking. "Save your energy for healing."
Can't.
"Need you to know. Rejecting you, worst thing ever did. Broke me too. Bond didn't break cleanly. Still feel it. 3 years. Still." His words dissolved into another scream as the cure reached peak intensity. I could see the black veins burning away, the curse retreating under the onslaught of divine power. It was working. Agonizing, but working. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes, Anthony collapsed. Unconscious, breathing ragged but alive. The curse markings had faded by at least 30%, better than I'd hoped for a first treatment. I cleaned up supplies with shaking hands, trying to process what he'd said. Viraya, the beta princess, had threatened him into rejection. Their bond hadn't broken cleanly, meaning he'd been feeling the phantom mate connection for 3 years just like I had. He'd loved me. Maybe I still did. And I had no idea what to do with that information. I'd made it exactly 3 days into treatment before Viraya Ashford noticed I existed. She cornered me in the healing wing during morning rounds, her perfectly styled blonde hair and designer training clothes screaming wealth and status. Everything about her was calculated, from her practiced smile to the deliberate way she positioned herself between me and the exit. "Master Healer Summers," she said warmly, as if we were old friends. "I've been meaning to introduce myself. I'm Viraya Ashford, Beta Princess of the Eastern Territories." "I know who you are," I replied, continuing my inventory check without looking up. "Your medical file is in the system. Minor wolf strain last month. Fully healed." "Oh, I'm not here about medical issues." Her laugh was musical, fake. "I wanted to welcome you to Moonfall Citadel properly. It must be overwhelming coming from, where was it? Thornwick? Such a small village compared to the Citadel." First subtle dig, reminding me I was from nowhere important. Standard dominance play from someone who thought rank mattered more than capability. "Thornwick prepared me adequately," I said neutrally. "Border village healers learn fast or their patients die. Very motivating educational environment." Viraya's smile tightened fractionally. "I'm sure. Though I imagine treating actual nobility requires different skills than treating farmers and hunters." Second dig, implying I wasn't qualified for my position. I set down my clipboard and finally looked at her directly. "Princess Ashford, was there something specific you needed? Or did you just come here to question my credentials?" "Neither. I'm just concerned about the rumor I heard." She leaned closer, conspiratorial. "People are saying you've been visiting the Alpha King's quarters late at night. Alone. 4 hours at a time. And there it was, the real reason for this visit. Someone had noticed my treatment sessions despite our precautions." "The Alpha King is my patient," I said carefully. "Medical consultations happen on whatever schedule the treatment requires." "Of course. Though I have to wonder why Anthony needs medical consultation at all. He's never been sick a day in his life." Her eyes were sharp despite the sweet tone. "Unless there's something wrong with him that the council should know about? A direct trap. If I confirmed Anthony was sick, I'd violate patient confidentiality and probably get him removed from leadership. If I denied it convincingly, she'd know I was hiding something and dig deeper." "The Alpha King's health is between him and his healers," I said finally. "If you have concerns about his fitness for leadership, take them to the council. But don't expect me to breach medical ethics, because you're curious." Viraya's mask slipped for just a moment, showing genuine anger before the sweet expression returned. "I'm not just curious, Master Healer. I'm concerned. About Anthony, yes, but also about appearances." She examined her perfectly manicured nails. "You're an Omega spending significant private time with the unmated Alpha King. People might get the wrong idea about your relationship. People who assume medical treatment is romantic opportunity probably have limited imaginations," I replied coldly. "Perhaps. But you know how pack politics works. Rumors spread. Reputations get damaged. And an Omega healer with a damaged reputation might find her position at this citadel becomes untenable." The threat was barely veiled. "I'd hate to see your promising career end because of unfortunate gossip." "Is that what happened to Anthony's last healer? Unfortunate gossip?" I was guessing, but Viraya's expression confirmed I'd hit something true. "Master Healer Torres requested transfer," she said smoothly. "Personal reasons." "I'm sure. Just like I'm sure those personal reasons had nothing to do with interference from someone who didn't like him treating the Alpha King." "You're making serious accusations with no evidence. And you're making thinly veiled threats disguised as concern." We both know what this conversation is really about, Princess. You view me as competition for Anthony's attention, and you want me gone before I become a problem. Viraya dropped the act entirely, her face hardening. You're right. I do want you gone. Because Anthony Gray is mine. We've been planning our political alliance for 3 years. I will be Luna Queen of the Northern Pax, and I won't let some common Omega healer from a dead village interfere with that destiny. If your alliance is so secure, why are you threatened by a healer doing her job? Because I'm not stupid. I remember you, Janet Summers. You're the rejected Omega from the blessing ceremony. The one Anthony publicly refused because you weren't worth his time. She smiled viciously. How does it feel, knowing the man you thought was your mate chose politics over you? Knowing that I convinced him to make that choice. My blood ran cold. What did you say? Oh, did Anthony not mention that during your late-night medical consultations? It was my idea to reject you publicly. I explained to him that an Omega mate would destroy his credibility, that the council would never accept someone of your rank as Luna Queen. He was hesitant at first, something about childhood promises, but I made him see reason. She was confirming everything Anthony had confessed during his pain-induced delirium. Viraya had orchestrated the rejection. You manipulated an 18-year-old into abandoning his mate bond, I said quietly, fury building beneath my controlled exterior. I helped him make a smart political choice. And now I'm helping you make one. Leave Moonfall Citadel voluntarily, or I'll make your time here so miserable you'll have no choice but to run. Viraya turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Janet, if you're thinking about telling Anthony about this conversation, don't bother. He trusts me. Has for years. Your word against mine won't end well for you. She walked away, leaving me shaking with rage and a burning desire to prove her wrong about everything. Kira found me an hour later, still fuming in the supply room. I heard Viraya paid you a visit, she said carefully. The whole Citadel is buzzing about it. Apparently, she was smiling when she left, which usually means someone's about to have a very bad time. She threatened me. Basically ordered me to leave or face systematic harassment. I slammed a cabinet door harder than necessary. And she admitted she's the one who convinced Anthony to reject our mate bond 3 years ago. Kira's eyes widened. Holy moon goddess. What? Told him an Omega mate would destroy his credibility. Manipulated a teenager into public rejection that nearly killed both of us. I forced myself to breathe slowly. And she's right that I can't prove it. It's my word against a beta princess with 3 years of established trust. Then we don't fight her with words. We fight her with evidence. Kira's expression turned calculating. Viraya didn't get where she is by playing fair. Which means there's a trail of other people she's manipulated or destroyed. We find that trail, document it, and prove she's not the innocent political ally she pretends to be. That could take weeks, months. Then we work fast and carefully. Because, Janet, if Viraya feels threatened enough to personally confront you, she's going to escalate. This isn't over, it's just beginning.
Kira was right.
Over the next week, Viraya launched what could only be described as a systematic campaign to destroy my credibility and reputation. It started small, supplies mysteriously going missing from the healing wing, forcing me to scramble during treatments. Patients being scheduled for appointments I hadn't authorized, then complaining when I couldn't see them. Then it escalated. One of my patients developed severe complications after a routine treatment. Investigation revealed someone had contaminated my herb supplies with a toxic additive. The patient survived, but counsel launched a formal inquiry into my competence. This is ridiculous, Thorne argued during the hearing. Master Healer Summers' credentials are impeccable. Obviously, someone sabotaged her supplies. Or she made a careless mistake, the investigating elder countered. Omega healers are known to be less detail-oriented than higher-ranked practitioners. The casual prejudice made my blood boil, but I maintained professional composure, while Miriam's testimony via communication crystal vindicated my methods and suggested the contamination was deliberate. The inquiry concluded with a warning rather than punishment, but the damage was done. Several patients requested transfer to different healers, claiming they didn't feel safe under my care. Varea's fingerprints were all over it, but proving her involvement was impossible. "She's destroying you methodically," Kira observed after the third patient transfer request. "And she's doing it in ways that look like your own incompetence rather than her interference." I know. I'd spent every free moment documenting the sabotage, comparing it to patterns Miriam had taught me to recognize. But fighting back directly will just make me look defensive and guilty. I need something concrete to prove she's behind this. Then we get it. I've been asking around discreetly about Varea's history. Turns out you're not her first victim. There was another healer, Torres, who treated Anthony before you. He left suddenly after rumors started about him overstepping professional boundaries. Let me guess, rumors Varea started? Probably. But here's the interesting part. Torres is still in the Northern Territories. He runs a clinic in the eastern border settlements now. If we can find him, maybe he'll confirm Varea's pattern of targeting anyone who gets close to Anthony. It was a good lead. The question was whether I could leave the Citadel long enough to investigate without abandoning my duties, and without Varea using my absence against me. The decision was made for me when Anthony collapsed during a council meeting. The shadow rot had progressed faster than expected despite treatments, his suppressants finally failing completely in a public setting. Thorn carried him to my healing wing while chaos erupted throughout the Citadel. "Everyone out," I ordered, clearing the room of curious onlookers. "Commander Blackwater, bar the door. Nobody enters without my explicit permission." I worked frantically, administering emergency moonblood treatment while Anthony's body fought the advancing curse. His wolf was surfacing uncontrolled, the pain breaking through every mental barrier he'd constructed. "Janet," he gasped, consciousness fragmenting. Can't let them see. Weakness. Forget them. Focus on staying alive." I forced more serum into his system, watching the curse markings burn. "You're going to survive this, Anthony. I don't care what it costs me politically." Through the delirium and pain, his eyes found mine. "You came back. After everything, you came back." "I'm a healer. It's what I do."
No.
"You came back for me. To save the idiot who rejected you." "Why?" I didn't have a good answer. Maybe because some part of me still cared despite the betrayal. Maybe because proving I was strong enough to help him felt like vindication. Maybe because the moon goddess had plans neither of us understood yet. "Ask me again when you're not dying," I said instead. The emergency treatment stabilized him, but the public collapse meant I couldn't hide his shadow rot anymore. Within hours, the entire Citadel knew their Alpha King was sick. And within hours, Varea was using it against both of us. She called for emergency council session to discuss Anthony's fitness for leadership and my competence as his healer. If the shadow rot had progressed this far under my care, she argued, clearly I was either incompetent or deliberately sabotaging the Alpha King for personal revenge. The political attack was brilliant and brutal. She'd turned my healing into evidence of malice, Anthony's trust in me into proof of my manipulation. "This is a coup," Thorne said bluntly. "Varea's trying to remove both of you, Anthony from leadership, you from your position. If she succeeds, she installs her own choice as interim alpha and controls the Northern Territories through puppet leadership." "Can she actually do that?"
Kira asked.
"If the council believes Anthony is too sick to lead, and I'm responsible for his condition, yes," I said grimly. "We need evidence of Varea's sabotage before the emergency session tomorrow. Real evidence, not just suspicions." "Then we go to Torres tonight," Kira decided. "Get his testimony about what Varea did to him. Prove this is her pattern." It was risky, reckless, and probably exactly what Varea expected. But it was also our best chance at exposing her before she destroyed both me and Anthony. "Commander Blackwater, you're in charge of Anthony's care while I'm gone," I said. If he wakes, tell him I'm getting evidence that will save both of us. And if the council demands your presence tonight, stall them. Lie if you have to. I need 12 hours. Thorn nodded grimly. Bring back something that proves Varea's guilt. Otherwise, tomorrow we all lose. Road trip to find the previous victim. Who else thinks Torres has major dirt on Varea? Drop your predictions and hit that subscribe button because this evidence-gathering mission is about to get dangerous. You're absolutely right. I apologize for the confusion. Let me continue with the remaining story. The journey to Torres's clinic took 6 hours through territory I barely remembered. Kira drove while I reviewed everything we knew about Varea's pattern of destruction, looking for connections we might have missed. What if Torres won't talk? Kira asked as we approached the eastern border settlements. He left the Citadel to escape this mess. Why would he want to get involved again? Because 17 alphas have died from shadow rot in the last year, and Varea's interference prevented proper treatment, I said. If Torres has any conscience at all, he'll help stop her. We found the clinic just after dawn, a modest building that looked nothing like Moonfall Citadel's gleaming healing wing. Torres himself answered our knock, a middle-aged beta with tired eyes that widened when he saw me. You're the new master healer, he said immediately. Janet Summers. I've been following the Citadel news. Varea's already targeting you, isn't she? You know about Varea? Relief flooded through me. Know about her? She's the reason I left. Torres gestured us inside, his clinic simple but immaculately organized. I treated Alpha Anthony for 2 months before she decided I was getting too close to him. Started rumors that I was developing inappropriate feelings, that my treatment recommendations were motivated by personal interest rather than medical necessity. What happened? The council launched an ethics investigation. Found nothing concrete, but the rumors were enough. Patients stopped trusting me. Other healers started questioning my methods. Eventually, I realized staying would only make things worse for Anthony's treatment, so I transferred here. Torres's expression was bitter. I'm a better healer than Varea will ever be, but she has political connections, and I don't. In pack politics, that's what matters. Not anymore, I said firmly. I need you to testify about what she did. Give formal statement to the council about the harassment and false rumors. Help me prove this is her pattern, not isolated incident. Torres hesitated. If I testify against a beta princess, my career in the Northern Territories is over. Varea's family has influence everywhere. If you don't testify, more healers will be driven out and more alphas will die from shadow rot because competent treatment keeps getting sabotaged. I pulled out my documentation. Torres, I can cure this disease. I have Moonblood and Elder Miriam's research. But Varea is trying to destroy my credibility before I can finish treating Anthony and develop the cure for other infected wolves. Your testimony could stop her. He studied my face for a long moment. You really can cure shadow rot? I've reduced Anthony's curse markings by 60% in 3 weeks. Another week of treatment, and he'll be completely healed. I showed him my progress notes. But if Varea succeeds in removing me from my position, all that progress is lost. Anthony relapses, and every other infected alpha loses their chance at survival. Torres read through my notes, his healer's expertise recognizing the breakthrough I'd achieved. Moon Goddess, he breathed. This is revolutionary. The combination of Moonblood essence with purified starlight, I never even considered that approach. Because you're not Moonblood. Only someone with a divine connection could have developed this treatment. I leaned forward. Please, Torres. Help me protect this research and expose Varea before she destroys everything we could accomplish. He was silent for a long moment, weighing career safety against moral obligation. I'll testify, he said finally. On one condition, when you perfect that cure, you share the formula with every healer in the Northern Territories. Shadow rot has taken too many lives. If you've found the answer, it needs to be available to everyone, not kept as proprietary advantage. Agreed. The moment Anthony is fully cured and the treatment is verified safe, I'll publish everything. I extended my hand.
Thank you, Torres.
This testimony might save more than just my position. Let's hope it saves all of us, he replied, shaking my hand. Because if Varela realizes I'm working against her, she'll come after me too. We returned to Moonfall Citadel just as the emergency council session was beginning. Torres came with us, his formal testimony prepared, and his resolve solid despite obvious nervousness. The council chamber was packed, every elder present, most of the Citadel's high-ranking wolves in attendance, and Varela sitting front and center with her father Lord Ashford beside her. Both wore expressions of sympathetic concern that made my skin crawl. Anthony was there too, still weak but refusing to appear incapacitated. Thorne stood behind him, a solid presence of support. This council convenes to address serious concerns about Alpha King Anthony Gray's fitness for leadership and Master Healer Janet Summers's competence, Elder Morrison announced. Princess Varela has brought charges that require immediate investigation. Varela stood, every inch the concerned beta princess. Honored elders, I bring these charges with great reluctance. Anthony Gray is a leader I deeply respect, and I want nothing more than his full recovery. However, the facts cannot be ignored. She presented her case methodically. Anthony's shadow had progressed dangerously under my care. His public collapse proved the treatment was failing. My background as a rejected former mate gave me motive to sabotage rather than heal him. The contaminated supplies incident suggested either incompetence or malice. Furthermore, Varela continued, I have testimony from multiple Citadel members about Master Summers's unprofessional behavior. Late-night private meetings with the Alpha King. Emotional confrontations that violated healer-patient boundaries. A pattern of conduct suggesting personal vendetta rather than medical duty. It was a masterful political assassination, every point technically accurate but framed to paint me as incompetent and vindictive. The council must consider whether allowing this treatment to continue serves the Alpha King's interests or Master Summers's personal agenda, Varela concluded. I recommend immediate suspension of her healing privileges and assignment of a new, politically neutral healer to the Alpha King's care. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. I could see the calculation in the elder's eyes. Safer to remove the controversial Omega healer than risk the Alpha King's death under her care. Master Healer Summers, Elder Morrison said formally, how do you respond to these charges? I stood, forcing myself to remain calm despite the rage burning through my veins. Honored elders, every charge Princess Varela presented is true in the narrowest technical sense and completely false in actual meaning. I pulled out my medical documentation. Yes, Alpha Anthony's shadow rot progressed. All cursed diseases progress. That's their nature. But under my treatment, his condition has improved by 60%. The curse markings that would have killed him in weeks have been reduced to manageable levels that will be completely eliminated within days. I projected my progress charts on the chamber's display crystal. The visual evidence of Anthony's improvement was undeniable. Yes, I meet with the Alpha King late at night in private. Because shadow rot treatment requires privacy to prevent panic, and the cure process is agonizing enough that witnessing it would traumatize observers. Commander Blackwater can confirm that every meeting was medically necessary and professionally conducted. Thorne nodded confirmation. Yes, contaminated supplies appeared in my healing wing. Because someone sabotaged them. Elder Miriam's independent analysis proved the contamination was deliberate, not accidental. I looked directly at Varela. The question isn't whether I'm competent. The question is who has motive to make me appear incompetent. Are you accusing Princess Varela of sabotage? Lord Ashford demanded, standing. That's a serious charge against a beta royal.
I am stating facts.
Someone contaminated my supplies. Someone scheduled false appointments. Someone spread rumors about my treatment methods. I gestured to Torres. And someone did the exact same thing to Master Healer Torres when he treated the Alpha King 2 years ago. Fortunately, Torres is here to testify about that pattern. Torres stood, his nervousness visible, but his voice steady. Honored elders, when I served as the Alpha King's healer, I experienced systematic harassment identical to what Master Summers describes. Supplies went missing. Patients complained about appointments I never scheduled. Rumors spread that I had inappropriate feelings for the Alpha King. These incidents intensified whenever I made medical progress or spent significant time treating Anthony's minor ailments. Eventually, the harassment made my position untenable, and I transferred to avoid further conflict. Torres met Varea's gaze directly. At the time, I couldn't prove who orchestrated the campaign against me. But the pattern was clear. Anyone who got close to Anthony Gray professionally became a target for destruction. This is absurd, Varea protested. Master Torres left due to his own ethical violations, not harassment. I was investigated and cleared of all charges, Torres interrupted firmly. The ethics inquiry found no evidence of wrongdoing. But by then, my reputation was damaged enough that leaving seemed like the only option. And now we see the same pattern repeating with Master Summers, I added. Different healer, identical harassment, same motive, removing anyone who threatens Princess Varea's political plans for the Alpha King. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some elders defended Varea, others questioned the coincidence, several demanded further investigation. Through the chaos, Anthony stood. Enough, he said quietly, but his alpha command carried through the noise. The chamber fell silent. I've listened to these charges and countercharges, and I'm tired of political games with my health as the playing piece. Anthony's gaze swept the council. Here are the facts. Master Healer Summers has achieved more progress against Shadow Rot in 3 weeks than any healer managed in the last year. Her treatment is working. I am healing. And whoever has been sabotaging her supplies and spreading rumors is directly threatening my life and the lives of every other infected alpha. He turned to Varea, his expression cold. Princess Ashford, you claim concern for my well-being. Yet somehow, problems with my treatment only appeared after you began involving yourself in healing wing politics. Coincidence? Anthony, I only wanted to help. By harassing my healer? By contaminating medical supplies? By creating exactly the same hostile environment that drove away my previous competent healer? Anthony's voice was ice. I may have been blind to your manipulations when I was 18, but I'm not blind anymore. Varea's face went pale. I don't know what Janet has been telling you, but Master Healer Summers hasn't told me anything beyond medical updates. But I'm not stupid, Varea. I've watched you operate for 3 years. I've seen how you remove anyone you view as competition or a threat. And I'm done pretending your political ambitions serve anyone's interests besides your own. The public rejection was devastating. Varea's carefully constructed image of being Anthony's trusted ally shattered in front of the entire council. The Alpha King's personal feelings don't change the facts, Lord Ashford tried to salvage. Master Summers's background as rejected mate creates inherent conflict of interest. Then let's address that, Anthony interrupted. Yes, I rejected Janet Summers 3 years ago. It was the stupidest, most cowardly thing I've ever done. I allowed political pressure and fear of appearing weak to override a genuine mate bond blessed by the moon goddess herself. The confession shocked the chamber into silence. I've regretted that rejection every day since, Anthony continued. But my regret doesn't change Master Summers's professional competence. She's the most skilled healer I've encountered, her treatment is saving my life, and anyone who interferes with her work is committing treason against the Northern Pack hierarchy. He looked directly at me, his eyes showing more emotion than I'd seen since our childhood. Master Healer Summers, I cannot undo the past or erase the harm I caused, but I can make sure you receive the respect and support you deserve now. This council will cease all investigation into your competence, provide full backing for your shadow rot research, and investigate thoroughly who has been sabotaging your work. And if the investigation leads back to Princess Varea, Elder Morrison asked carefully. Then she faces consequences appropriate to attempted murder of the Alpha King through medical sabotage, Anthony said flatly. Royal bloodline doesn't excuse treason. Anthony finally standing up for Janet in public. But is it too little too late? Comment your opinion and subscribe because Varea's revenge plan is about to get deadly. The council investigation moved quickly once Anthony removed political obstacles. Within 2 days, they traced the contaminated supplies directly to an Eastern Territories merchant who confirmed Varea had paid him to sabotage my inventory. She's going to retaliate, Kira warned as we reviewed the investigation findings. Varea doesn't strike me as someone who accepts defeat gracefully. Let her try. With the council watching and Anthony's support, what can she actually do? I should have known better than to ask that question. The supply run seemed routine, a quick trip to gather rare herbs from the Whispering Forest where Elder Miriam cultivated her medicinal plants. I'd made the journey dozens of times during my training, knew the paths well, saw no reason to bring guards for a simple herb collection. That miscalculation almost killed me. I was deep in the forest, basket half full of moonflower petals, when I sensed the wolves. Not pack wolves, rogues, moving with coordinated purpose that suggested planning rather than random encounters. I tried to run, but there were 6 of them, and only one of me. They cornered me against the ravine edge, their eyes showing the blank obedience of wolves under compulsion rather than acting from their own will. Nothing personal, the leader said, his voice flat and emotionless. We're paid to do a job. You disappear, we get our money. Simple transaction. Who paid you? I demanded, though I already knew the answer. Does it matter? You'll be dead either way. They didn't give me time to argue, to fight, to even shift into wolf form. Just grabbed me and threw me over the ravine edge into Blood Ravine, the cursed canyon that killed any Omega who fell in. I had maybe 3 seconds of freefall to realize I was going to die. Then my moon blood activated automatically, pure survival instinct overriding conscious control. Silver light exploded around me, slowing my fall just enough that hitting the ravine floor was agonizing instead of instantly fatal. I lay there, broken and bleeding, listening to the rogues above confirm my death and leave. My ribs were shattered, one leg bent at an unnatural angle, internal bleeding making every breath agony. Normal Omega would have died from these injuries within minutes. Moonblood kept me conscious and healing, but far too slowly to escape before exposure or predators finished what the fall started. I was going to die in Blood Ravine. Alone, broken, exactly as Varea had planned. Then I heard her voice. Is she dead? Varea's perfectly modulated tone drifted down from the ravine edge. Confirmed, Princess. One of the rogues reported. She hit the ravine floor hard. No way she survived those injuries.
Good.
Make sure the body isn't found for at least a week. By then, everyone will assume she ran away or was taken by rogues. Her disappearance will confirm all the rumors about her being unstable and unprofessional. Varea's satisfaction was audible. And without her treatment, Anthony's shadow rot will progress fatally within days. Problem solved. I forced myself to remain absolutely still and silent despite the pain. If Varea thought I was dead, she might confess more. What about the council investigation? Another voice asked. Lord Ashford. They were getting close to connecting you to the supply sabotage. Irrelevant now. With Janet dead, there's no one to testify, no one to push for thorough investigation. I'll express concern about her mysterious disappearance, suggest she might have run away after the council inquiries stressed her too much. Sympathetic Beta Princess worried about the unstable Omega healer. And the Alpha King? Anthony will grieve, blame himself for not protecting her, become vulnerable enough that I can finally position myself as his necessary support. Varea's voice turned cold. 3 years I've invested in becoming his perfect political match. I won't let some rejected Omega healer destroy that future just because she has moonblood and childhood history. What if someone finds the body and realizes she was murdered? Lord Ashford asked. Blood ravine kills omegas on contact.
Everyone knows that.
Her death from the fall is completely believable, and rogues dumping a body here makes sense. No one will question it. Viraya paused. Let's go. We have an alibi to establish before anyone realizes she's missing. Their voices faded as they left. I waited until absolute silence before allowing myself to make a sound, a sob of pain and fury that echoed through the empty ravine. She'd tried to murder me, confessed to sabotaging Anthony's treatment, admitted to 3 years of manipulation and political scheming, and I'd recorded every word. The communication crystal Elder Miriam had given me for emergency contact was still intact in my pocket, its passive recording function having captured Viraya's entire confession. The device was designed to activate automatically during life-threatening situations, preserving evidence even if the user died. Miriam's paranoia had just saved my life, or at least given my death meaning. But I wasn't planning to die. The healing took 3 days. 3 days of lying in Blood Ravine, using every technique Miriam had taught me to knit broken bones and repair internal damage. 3 days of fighting off scavenger animals and cursed ravine energy that tried to kill me. 3 days of transforming pain and betrayal into cold, calculated rage. The moon blood that should have saved me from the fall was too weak initially because I'd been suppressing it to avoid making other wolves uncomfortable. But lying in that ravine, broken and furious, I stopped suppressing anything. I let the moon blood fully awaken. Silver light blazed through me, burning away the last restraints I'd placed on my power. The ravine itself, supposedly deadly to omegas, recognized the divine energy and responded. Ancient magic soaked into my bones as I healed, blessing rather than curse. When I finally climbed out of Blood Ravine on the 4th day, I was stronger than I'd ever been. Healed completely. Power radiating from every cell. Moonblood fully activated and no longer hidden. And I had evidence that would destroy Viraya Ashford completely. The Great Pack Council was in session when I arrived, still dealing with my mysterious disappearance. Viraya sat front and center, playing the concerned friend beautifully. We must consider the possibility that Master Summers simply couldn't handle the pressure, she was saying. The council investigation, the accusations, the stress of treating Shadow rot. Perhaps it became too much and she fled. Or perhaps someone wanted her dead, I said from the chamber entrance. Every head turned. The shocked silence was delicious. I walked down the center aisle, my silver hair still showing traces of ravine dust, my clothes torn but my stride steady. The moonblood power I'd stopped hiding made every wolf in the room instinctively lower their eyes in submission. Master Summers, Elder Morrison breathed. You're alive. We thought. You thought I was dead because that's what Princess Viraya wanted you to think. I stopped in front of Viraya, watching her face cycle through shock, fear, and desperate calculation. Tell them, Viraya. Tell them how you hired rogues to throw me into Blood Ravine. How you confirmed my death. How you planned to use my murder to finally secure your position as Anthony's Luna. I don't know what you're talking about, Viraya said, her voice shaking slightly. You obviously suffered some trauma. I suffered attempted murder. I pulled out the communication crystal. Fortunately, Elder Miriam equipped me with a device that records automatically during life-threatening situations. Would the council like to hear what Princess Viraya said when she thought I was dead? I didn't wait for permission, just activated the crystal's playback function. Viraya's voice filled the chamber. Is she dead? The recording played everything. Her confirmation of my murder, her discussion with Lord Ashford about covering it up, her admission of sabotaging Anthony's treatment, her 3-year manipulation plan. By the time the recording ended, Viraya's face was white as snow, and her father looked ready to bolt. This is fabricated. Lord Ashford tried desperately. Clearly manipulated audio. The council has verification experts, I interrupted. They can authenticate the recording. But we both know what they'll find. Genuine audio, unmanipulated, proving your daughter hired rogues to murder me and confessed to sabotaging the Alpha King's medical treatment. Anthony, please. Viraya turned to him, tears streaming down her face. You know me. You know I would never. I know exactly who you are, Anthony said coldly. I've known for a while, but I was too weak to acknowledge it. You manipulated an 18-year-old into rejecting his fated mate. You've spent 3 years positioning yourself as my political future while destroying anyone who threatened that plan. And now you tried to murder the woman who's saving my life. He stood, his alpha command filling the chamber. Viraya Ashford, Lord Ashford, you are both charged with attempted murder of a Moonblood healer, sabotage of Alpha King medical treatment, conspiracy to commit treason, and manipulation of pack politics. The council will verify this evidence and conduct formal trial. This is a mistake, Viraya said desperately. Anthony, we were supposed to lead the Northern Packs together. I've worked for years. You've worked for your own ambition, not for the Packs. And that ends now. Viraya finally exposed. The recording was everything. Drop a celebration comment and hit subscribe because the trial and Viraya's downfall are going to be spectacular. The trial lasted 3 days and confirmed everything the recording suggested. Under council questioning, the hired rogues confessed to being paid by Viraya. The merchant who supplied contaminated herbs testified about her bribes. Torres provided historical context about her pattern of harassment. And the recording itself, verified authentic by 3 separate council experts, destroyed any remaining defense. The council finds Viraya Ashford and Lord Ashford guilty of all charges, Elder Morrison announced on the 3rd day. The sentence, complete stripping of rank, seizure of Eastern Territories lands, and permanent exile from all Northern Pack territories. Viraya didn't scream or protest. She just stared at me with pure hatred, her perfect facade finally shattered. You've destroyed me, she said flatly.
No.
You destroyed yourself. I just survived long enough to expose it. As guards led her away, I felt the weight of 3 years of manipulation and pain finally lifting. Viraya was gone. The threat was eliminated. Now I just had to figure out what to do about Anthony. He found me that night in the healing wing, looking healthier than I'd seen him since my arrival. The final shadow-wrought treatment had worked, his curse markings completely gone, his strength fully returned. You cured me, he said quietly. Saved my life despite everything I did to you. I'm a healer. It's what I do. Janet, please. Can we talk honestly? No professional distance, no political masks. Just us. I wanted to refuse, to maintain the safe emotional walls I'd built. But I also needed closure on 3 years of hurt.
Fine.
Talk honestly. Anthony sat across from me, looking younger and more vulnerable than the Alpha King image he usually projected. I was 18 when Viraya first approached me about our mate bond, he began. She told me that accepting an Omega as Luna would destroy my credibility with the council, that they'd view me as weak for choosing emotion over political strategy. She threatened to spread rumors that would damage both our reputations if I didn't reject you publicly. I know. You confessed during your treatment delirium. His face flushed. I said things while unconscious? You said a lot of things, including that you loved me, that the rejection broke you too, that the mate bond never actually severed cleanly. I met his gaze. Were those pain-induced delusions or truth?
Truth.
All of it. Anthony's voice was raw. Janet, rejecting you was the worst decision I ever made. I chose political safety over genuine connection, and I've regretted it every single day since. The mate bond didn't break. It's been there this whole time, phantom pain of what we should have been. Then why didn't you fight for it? Why didn't you refuse Viraya's manipulation? Because I was 18, terrified of failing as Alpha King, and she made me believe that loving you was weakness. By the time I realized she was lying, it was too late. You were gone. I was trapped in the political future she'd constructed, and I didn't know how to fix what I'd broken. I absorbed this, 3 years of wondering, finally getting answers. Do you know what that rejection did to me? I asked quietly. I nearly died, Anthony. Most wolves die when their fated mate refuses the bond. I survived only because my moon blood activated as last-ditch survival mechanism. I spent weeks in Elder Miriam's care, learning to heal while my entire world fell apart. I know.
I'm sorry.
Sorry doesn't undo 3 years of pain. Sorry doesn't erase the public humiliation or the grief, or the work I had to do rebuilding myself from nothing. I know it doesn't. I know I can't fix this with apologies. Anthony's hands clenched. But Janet, I need you to understand, I never stopped caring. I never stopped feeling the bond. Seeing you again, working with you during treatment, watching you save my life despite everything, it made me realize what I threw away. And what exactly do you want from me now? A second chance. Permission to court you properly, to prove I'm not the coward who rejected you, to build what we should have had 3 years ago. The offer hung between us, tempting and terrifying. Part of me wanted to say yes, to reclaim the mate bond, to accept the Alpha King's devotion, to build the future we'd promised each other as children. But another part of me remembered the pain, the betrayal, the 3 years I'd spent learning I didn't need his acceptance to be worthy. I don't know if I can trust you again, I admitted. You chose politics over me once. What happens when the next political crisis comes? When the council questions our bond or someone threatens your authority if you stay with an Omega Luna? Then I choose you. Every time. I'll abdicate the Alpha King position, if that's what it takes. Don't make promises you can't keep. I'm not. Janet, being Alpha King means nothing if I lose you again. I learned that lying in blood ravine myself, metaphorically, for 3 years. Power without genuine connection is just loneliness with authority. His sincerity was obvious. But sincerity didn't erase history. I need time, I said finally. Time to finish processing everything that happened. Time to see if you actually follow through on these promises when it's not dramatic crisis, but daily life. Time to figure out if I even want to be with someone who hurt me so deeply. Anthony nodded, though his disappointment was visible. Take all the time you need. I'll wait. I've waited 3 years already. I can wait longer if it means a real chance with you. And if I decide the answer is no, if I can't forgive the rejection, then I'll respect that. But I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you know you deserved better than what I gave you. Second chance romance or move on completely? What would you do in Janet's position? Comment below and subscribe because the claiming ceremony is coming and it's going to be emotional. Over the next month, Anthony proved his intentions through actions rather than words. He publicly acknowledged our mate bond before the entire council, stating clearly that Janet Summers was his fated mate and he'd been wrong to reject that bond 3 years ago. He established new council policies protecting healers from political interference, ensuring no future healer would face what Torres and I had experienced. He visited the healing wing daily, not as patient but as someone genuinely interested in my work, asking questions about shadow-wrought research and supporting my publication of a cure formula. He courted me traditionally, flowers, thoughtful gifts, requests for walks rather than demands for my time. Treated me as equal rather than subordinate. And most importantly, when several elders questioned whether an Omega Luna was appropriate for the Northern Pax, he shut down the conversation immediately. Janet Summers is Moonblood, the most powerful healer in our territories, and the woman the Moon Goddess chose as my mate, he told the council flatly. Anyone who questions her worthiness is questioning the Moon Goddess herself. I suggest you think very carefully before continuing that line of argument. The political support was absolute, but I still hadn't given him an answer. You're torturing him, Kira observed one afternoon, watching Anthony leave after another rejected dinner invitation. The poor Alpha King looks like a kicked puppy every time you say no.
Good.
He needs to understand that relationships require effort and patience. I organized my herb supplies. Besides, I'm not torturing him. I'm making sure he's genuine. And? Is he? I considered the question honestly.
Yes.
I think he is. The Anthony I've seen this month is the boy I grew up with, not the politically calculated alpha king who rejected me. He's vulnerable, sincere, willing to admit mistakes. Then why keep saying no to dinner? Because part of me is terrified that the moment I fully accept him, he'll revert to being the person who chose political safety over our bond. That this is temporary reformation born of guilt rather than genuine change.
Kira sat beside me.
Janet, can I say something you might not want to hear? Go ahead. You're not protecting yourself anymore. You're punishing him. And I get it, he hurt you terribly. But at some point, continuing to reject someone who's genuinely trying to make amends becomes more about your fear than his failings. The observation stung because it was partially true. I had been punishing Anthony, making him experience the uncertainty and rejection I'd lived with for 3 years. What if I'm not ready? I asked quietly. Then you're not ready, and that's valid. But be honest about whether it's not ready or never will be ready. Because Anthony deserves to know if he's pursuing someone who might eventually forgive him or someone who's already decided forgiveness is impossible. That night, I went to Morning Cliff, the sacred site where my moon blood had first awakened 3 years ago after Anthony's rejection. The place where I'd nearly died and instead transformed into something stronger. I don't know what to do, I said aloud, addressing the moon goddess or my own fractured heart or both. I love him. I've always loved him. But I also love the person I became without him, and I'm terrified that accepting him back means losing that independence. The moon hung full and bright above me, its silver light eerily similar to my moonblood glow. Then I felt it, a presence that wasn't quite physical, a whisper of divine attention focused directly on me. Child of my blessing, the voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. You stand at the crossroads between grief and grace, between judgment and mercy. What do you choose? I choose. I don't know what I choose. I'm angry and hurt and confused. All natural responses to betrayal. But clinging to those emotions serves only to poison your own heart. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is strength that allows healing rather than festering wounds. He doesn't deserve forgiveness for what he did. Perhaps not. But you deserve peace. And peace comes not from punishing those who wronged you, but from releasing the burden of their wrongs. The divine presence faded, leaving me alone with moonlight and my own tangled emotions. The moon goddess had a point. Holding on to anger and hurt was exhausting. And Anthony had genuinely tried to make amends, to prove he'd changed. Maybe it was time to give us a real chance. I found Anthony in his quarters, reviewing council documents with Thorne. Both looked up when I entered unannounced. Janet? Is something wrong? Anthony stood immediately, concern obvious.
No.
Nothing's wrong. I took a breath. Commander Blackwater, could you give us a few minutes? Thorne left discreetly, closing the door behind him. I've been unfair to you this month, I said without preamble. You've been trying to make amends, to prove you've changed, and I've been refusing every gesture while secretly keeping score of your efforts. You had every right to be cautious. Maybe. But Kira pointed out something I've been avoiding. I'm not being cautious anymore. I'm being punitive, making you feel the uncertainty I felt for 3 years. Anthony's expression was carefully neutral, though I could sense his hope and fear warring beneath the surface. The truth is, I'm terrified. I continued. Terrified of trusting you again and being wrong. Terrified of losing the independence I built after the rejection. Terrified that the moment I fully accept this bond, you'll realize I'm not worth the political complications and walk away again. I won't. You don't know that. Nobody knows that. Relationships are risk, and I'm scared of risking my heart on someone who shattered it once already. I moved closer. But I'm also tired of living in fear. Tired of punishing both of us for a mistake you've genuinely tried to fix. Tired of fighting a mate bond that never actually broke. Janet, what are you saying? I'm saying yes. To dinner, to courting, to giving us a real chance. Not because you've earned it through grand gestures, but because I deserve to find out if we can actually build something better than what we had as children. The hope on Anthony's face was almost painful to witness. I won't let you down, he promised. You might. People make mistakes, even with good intentions. But if you do fail, at least I'll know I gave us a genuine chance rather than protecting myself with anger. Anthony closed the distance between us, moving slowly enough that I could stop him if I wanted. When I didn't retreat, he carefully took my hands. I loved you when we were 8 years old, and you challenged me to a hunting race I had no chance of winning, he said quietly. I loved you at 18 when I rejected you, even though I was too cowardly to admit it. And I love you now, the healer who saved my life, the moonblood who survived attempted murder, the woman strong enough to give me a second chance I don't deserve. You're right. You don't deserve it. I agreed. But I'm giving it to you anyway. Try not to waste it. I won't. I swear on the moon goddess herself, I won't. He leaned forward slowly, giving me every opportunity to pull away. When I didn't, he kissed me. Gentle, reverent. 3 years of longing and regret poured into that single connection. The mate bond flared to life between us. No longer phantom pain, but real, tangible, right. Silver light blazed from my skin, wrapping around both of us, as the moon goddess herself seemed to bless our reunion. When we finally broke apart, Anthony was smiling more genuinely than I'd seen in years. So, about that dinner invitation? He asked hopefully.
Yes.
Tomorrow night. But Anthony, if you're late, I'm telling the entire council that the Alpha King can't manage basic time management. He laughed. Noted. I'll be early. They're finally together. Who else is crying? Drop a heart if your team's second chances. And subscribe because the claiming ceremony next chapter is going to be legendary. Word of our official courting spread through Moonfall Citadel within hours. Most wolves were supportive. The romantic story of childhood, mates reuniting after years of separation, appealed to pack sensibilities. But some elders remained skeptical. And Omega Luna had never led the northern packs. Ancient laws didn't explicitly forbid it, but tradition was powerful in its own right. The council is requesting a formal claiming ceremony, Thorne reported a week after Anthony and I had reconciled. They want public acknowledgement of the mate bond to settle any questions about succession and authority. Public ceremony sounds like an opportunity for political protest, I observed. Probably. But it's also an opportunity to establish precedent. Anthony's expression was determined. If we claim each other publicly, with full pack witness, nobody can question the legitimacy of our bond or your position as Luna. Unless they question it anyway, because I'm Omega ranked. Then I make it clear that rank matters less than capability, and you've proven capable of literally everything. Anthony took my hand. Janet, I know this is fast. We've only been officially courting for a week. But the mate bond has existed for over a decade, and we've wasted 3 years already. I don't want to waste more time because political tradition says we should. He had a point, and the practical reality was that the claiming ceremony would solidify my position and prevent future challenges. When? I asked. Full moon. 2 weeks from now. Traditional claiming ceremony with modifications acknowledging your moonblood heritage. Anthony smiled. Elder Miriam has agreed to officiate. She says watching you claim an Alpha King who rejected you would give her satisfaction for decades. I had to laugh. That sounded exactly like Miriam. The 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation, political maneuvering, and increasingly open affection between Anthony and me. We fell back into the easy companionship we'd shared as children, but tempered now with adult understanding of what we'd both sacrificed and survived. Nervous. Kira asked the morning of the claiming ceremony, helping me dress in traditional white and silver ceremonial robes. Terrified. Excited. Convinced this is either the best decision I've ever made or a spectacular mistake. Very helpful emotional clarity. I contain multitudes. I examined my reflection, silver hair braided with moonflower, violet eyes showing traces of moonblood glow, marks of power and heritage I no longer hid. Do I look like a Luna Queen? You look like someone who survived an attempted murder, cured an incurable disease, and exposed political corruption. Also, yes, you look like a Luna Queen. The claiming ceremony took place on Morning Cliff at midnight under the full moon. Every alpha from the northern packs attended, some supportive, some skeptical, all curious about the controversial match. Elder Miriam officiated, her ancient voice carrying authority that transcended normal pack hierarchy. We gather under the moon goddess's light to witness the claiming of fated mates. Anthony Gray, Alpha King of the Northern Packs, and Janet Summers, Moonblood Healer and Chosen Luna. Anthony stood across from me, dressed in ceremonial black and silver, his eyes never leaving mine. The bond between these wolves has endured separation, rejection, political manipulation, and attempted murder, Miriam continued. They come before us not as naive children making promises they don't understand, but as adults who've chosen each other despite every reason to stay apart. She turned to Anthony. Alpha King, do you claim this woman as your fated mate, your equal partner, your Luna? Knowing that her rank is Omega, her power is Moonblood, and her acceptance of you is grace rather than guarantee. I do, Anthony said clearly. I claim Janet Summers as my mate, my Luna, my equal in all things. I rejected this bond once through cowardice and manipulation. I accept it now with full knowledge of what I nearly lost and determination never to make that mistake again. Miriam turned to me. Janet Summers, do you claim this man as your fated mate, your chosen partner, your alpha? Knowing that he rejected you once, that accepting him requires forgiveness, and that your bond will face political challenges from those who question an Omega Luna? I met Anthony's gaze, seeing the boy who'd held my hand under an oak tree and the man who'd learned humility through consequences of his own choices. I do, I said firmly. I claim Anthony Gray as my mate, my alpha, my equal partner. Not because he deserves second chance, but because I choose to build something stronger than what was broken. I accept this bond with full knowledge of past pain and hope for future we'll create together. Silver light blazed from my skin as the words left my mouth, Moonblood power recognizing the claiming and sealing our bond with divine blessing. Then, under the moon goddess's light, I pronounce you claimed mates, Miriam announced. Anthony Gray, you may kiss your Luna. Anthony closed the distance between us, his hands gentle on my face as he kissed me. The mate bond completed fully this time, phantom pain transforming into solid connection that wrapped around both of us. When we broke apart, I was glowing so brightly that several alphas had to shield their eyes. The moon goddess's approval was unmistakable. The northern packs have a new Luna Queen, Miriam declared. Any who question her worthiness question the moon goddess herself. Any who threaten her face the consequences of opposing divine will. It was aggressive political positioning wrapped in spiritual authority, and I loved Miriam for it. The traditional claiming feast followed, hours of celebration, political networking, and acceptance of congratulations from alphas who ranged from genuinely happy to grudgingly respectful. You've done something unprecedented, Alpha Chin told me during the feast. Proven that rank matters less than capability, that Omega Wolves can lead as effectively as alphas. You've changed the Northern Pack's entire structure. I've just lived my life, I protested. The structure changed because it needed to. Maybe. But you were the catalyst. Chun smiled. My daughter is Omega. Before you, her future was limited to supportive roles regardless of her abilities. Now she sees Luna Queen who achieved power through competence and determination. That representation matters. Later that night, after the feast ended and guests departed, Anthony and I stood alone on Morning Cliff. "This is where it all began," I said quietly. "Where you rejected me 3 years ago. Where my moon blood awakened. Where I became who I am now. This is where I made my worst mistake, and where you became more than I deserved." Anthony agreed. "But it's also where we get to start fresh. Build something new. Something better than childhood promises. Something real. Built on honesty and choice rather than assumed destiny." I leaned against him, feeling the mate bond settle into comfortable rightness. "I'm still angry sometimes," I admitted. "About the rejection, about the 3 lost years, about what we could have had if you'd been braver at 18. You have every right to be angry. I was an idiot." "Yes, you were. But you're my idiot now, and I'm choosing to see who you've become rather than staying stuck on who you were." Anthony pulled me closer. "I love you, Janet Summers. I've loved you since we were children, and I'll love you until the moon goddess herself calls me home." "I love you too, Anthony Gray. Despite every reason not to. Despite the pain and betrayal and complications. I choose this bond. Choose you, choose us." The moon hung overhead, silent witness to promises made and kept, to hearts broken and healed, to futures built from the rubble of shattered pasts. We'd survived rejection and attempted murder. We'd exposed corruption and cured incurable disease. We'd fought for each other and ourselves. And now, finally, we had the chance to simply be together. "So, Luna Queen," Anthony said with a grin, "what comes next?" I considered the question. The pack to lead, the reforms to implement, the shadow-wrought cure to share, the alphas to convince that change was necessary and good. Next, we change the world, I decided.
Together.
As equals. Building the pack system our children will inherit. Children? Anthony's eyes widened. Eventually. Don't panic. I laughed at his expression. First we finish our claiming night, lead the packs together for a few years, and maybe establish that Omega Lunas are normal before we add the next complication. Fair enough. He kissed me again, claiming and promise and future all wrapped together. Thank you for giving me this second chance. Thank you for becoming someone worth the chance. We stood there on Morning Cliff as dawn broke, the place of past rejection transformed into site of new beginning. The moon goddess had brought us together, torn us apart, and reunited us stronger than before. Our story had never been simple, but it was ours. And that was enough. And that's IT. Janet and Anthony's journey from childhood friends to rejected mates to Luna Queen and Alpha King. What was your favorite moment? The cliff resurrection? The recorded confession? The claiming ceremony? Drop your favorites in the comments. If you love this story, smash that like button, leave a comment about which part made you cry/scream/throw your phone, and subscribe for more werewolf romance with all the angst and satisfaction. Thanks for joining Janet's journey from heartbroken Omega to powerful Luna Queen. Remember, sometimes the best revenge is just becoming so amazing they regret ever letting you go. See you in the next story.